All right, and as we were kind of teasing there, this whole severe weather risk that blew up the central portion of the United States yesterday was anticipated over 100 days ago with an outlook released from Weather 2020 and Gary Lezak, basically highlighting, hey, watch out for this area in 100 days. There's likely going to be a severe weather outbreak. And then after that, within the same week, there's going to be a secondary risk for severe weather, and now we're seeing that unfold in the next couple of days, shifted a little further to the south and east, also predicted over 100 days ago. So we're going to be talking with Gary Lezak from Weather 2020.
Gary Lezak, he is the CEO of Weather 2020 and the inventor of the LRC. Gary, want to thank you for joining our show. How's your day going?
It's going fantastic. I already had a great workout in. I got the dogs to meet this little 4-month-old puppy out in the park.
Awesome.
And I've been studying the weather relentlessly before that and after that. So I'm always working.
Good deal. Good deal.
Stuff.
Yeah.
And playing.
Well, Gary, like we were teasing before we brought you on, and I posted this on our social media as well, was that 100-day forecast. This was made for this last week's severe weather outbreak in the Central Plains, and this was all forecasted by the LRC 100 days ago. Explain to us how that's possible. For anybody that doesn't know what the LRC is, kind of give a short, brief synopsis of how this actually works.
You know, as years go by, I'm more proud that the bloggers did name it the LRC back in the early 2000s. But around 2002, I started a blog, and about 1987, 15 years before that, I discovered that the weather pattern is cycling regularly. And this is, a lot of people ask her, how come other meteorologists don't use it? And we can talk about that, they don't, because they don't understand it. It's a paradigm shift in meteorology, and it is absolutely fascinating. So what I discovered is the pattern is cycling regularly. The pattern that sets up in October and November, it sort of plants seeds. That's the beginning of the pattern we're in now. Here it is, May 21st, May 22nd. Oh my gosh, it's my friend Jeff Penner's birthday, and I talked to him this morning. I forgot to say happy birthday.
You better call him back later.
So anyway, I know. So, but here it is, May 22nd. The pattern we're in now, is set up in October and November. We're in the 5th cycle of the pattern, and the 6th cycle is about to begin within about the next 10 days. So what happens is these little seeds are planted, and this severe weather setup that we are experiencing now, the one that your storm chaser was on in the last segment, talking about the amazing chase he just had. It was rather riveting listening to that. And because I'm a chickens tornado chaser, I'm not going to get close to them. Let me tell you, they're just way too scary. But yes, 100 days ago, we put out 100 days before this week. So it's probably 97, 98 days right now. But 100 days ago, we put out this forecast. And what you're showing right now is the prediction on the left. That is the prediction we made on February the 15th for the first wave of this week's severe weather risks. And then on the right is the Storm Prediction Center's day 2. So the day 2 became a day 1 yesterday, and all of a sudden they increased it to a moderate risk. And we had already been expecting this to produce in that area. Then, I don't know if you have it ready to go, but the second wave is due later this week. And that's one that I actually increased to a rare higher risk for around Saturday's time frame for the area, as you said, just south of that area that just got hit. But right. I'm expecting it to migrate north into the region we predicted. So it's interesting, but that it truly was predicted about 100 days ago, and there's deep science behind these predictions, as you guys have been experiencing for years, and so well. There's a lot of research. It's not just arbitrarily saying, hey, middle of May, there's going to be severe weather outbreak in Tornado Alley. No, we pick when it's going to happen, where it's going to happen, and there's a why, a how, and what as well.
Right. And it's funny you should say, there's only 10 of us throughout the United States that know how to use the LRC. And there's a well-known meteorologist out of Iowa, and I won't mention his name. I used to work with him, Gary. And he shot me an email after he saw after he saw the 100-day post, the 100-day forecast, and he said, I want some more info on the LRC. He goes, and he's been doing this for 25 plus years. He's like, I've been kind of following along on your social media, but this is incredible. He said 100 days out, and you had the bullseye over Iowa. He's like, there is absolutely something to this. So word is spreading, which is good.
Yeah, thank you, Dean. It's good. It's going to, we got a product coming out. It's called the Global Predictor. I know you guys have been patiently waiting as well as I have. I've been saying it's going to be out in 2 weeks for about 10 weeks now, but I believe we're within 2 weeks.
Okay.
And but what this is going to do, and you can actually test it out right now, and for the full version, it's going to cost just $5.99 a month. If you go to weather2020.com, you can actually get your login and password and get your credentials set up. And when it comes out within a week or two and it's in an app, you won't have to redo it. That login should work. Just know that it's still 2 weeks away from fully being out. But what it does, it gives you, the customer out there, the world, a chance to just spin around, pick out. Let's say you're going to Paris for the Olympics. You go to Paris in France, you click on Paris, and you got the forecast for the Olympics day by day right now. Which days it's likely going to rain, which days it's likely going to be dry, the highs, lows, rain, and snow. Anywhere in the world. So we finally have a product that's affordable for just the regular consumer. We have other products, as you know, as we talk about, farmers out there have access to the LRC model, which is amazing. And it's absolutely, it's fascinating, and it's going to be exciting to watch this technology grow, because Dean and Justin, you have your own experiences with it, and it's just amazing.
But getting back into our conversation about the weather up here in the northern plains and across the United States with the severe weather we've been seeing and more severe weather to come, what are your thoughts on the LRC pattern as a whole, and what are your expectations or thoughts on what's going to be playing out up here in the northern and central plains as we exit spring and now eventually, hopefully, move towards summer?
Yeah, a couple things to talk about, just to go back into the last segment slightly, and then we'll go to look forward here and what's going on with this weather pattern. But back to that May 21st to 28th time frame for this severe weather, the severe weather outbreaks. The one that happened yesterday really started a day or two earlier down to the south and expanded into Iowa yesterday. The second wave of that is literally lining up just like we predicted 100 days ago as well. And if we go back, guys, Houston just had what looks like is going to be a $7 billion disaster on a derecho severe weather event that happened on May the 16th. It tracked from Texas southeast towards the Gulf Coast and then weakened as it moved off to the east. It's a prediction. We predicted the 14th to 18th for significant severe weather. I didn't include Texas, so it's going to be the one miss that we have out of our 12 predictions this year. We'll end up with over 90% accurate at predicting these severe weather outbreaks. But what's absolutely fascinating, and I'm going to post it on LinkedIn here on an article later today or tomorrow. I'll be finished with it. The system that produced that severe weather, that disaster in Houston, is directly related to one of the systems that we identified in November to occur next August, coming up in 3 months. That's going to produce a tropical storm, a named tropical storm, 65% probability of that, over the northeast Gulf of Mexico between New Orleans and Tampa, in that area. So the Houston disaster will be shown to be related to it. And how can I show that? Is by predicting it now. So I'm going to put it on LinkedIn. I'm going to put this prediction. So on August 10th, 12th, 15th, 18th, somewhere in there, when there's a hurricane forming and heading into that area of the northeast Gulf of Mexico, we won't just be saying it. We'll be saying, here's the forecast from 90 days ago, just like this 100-day forecast. I just wanted to lay that out there because it's just, Justin and Dean, you're one of the you're a couple of the few meteorologists that are LRC certified, and it still it doesn't surprise you, but doesn't it blow your mind each time one of these comes through?
It does. Yeah, I mean, it's and to be able to show other people, other meteorologists, or just the general public, when I post this stuff on social media pages, and I'll get feedback saying this is just an amazing tool to have, and it is. It really is.
Yeah, it really is interesting, and I've been trying to show it to a few of our interns in the past that we've had working under us covering weekend weather up here when it's not extreme by any means. I sit down and, you briefly explain something that's overcomplicated that takes years to fully understand. And you're like, hey, look at this. Using this methodology, this is going to happen again, but maybe it's going to be a little different. Why don't we put a Post-it note down and let's take a look in 50 days and see if there's a risk for severe weather in this general area. And sure enough, 50 days later, there's a severe weather risk on the day or maybe a day off for that exact area. And it's just fascinating to be able to do that. And even today, we're putting together our calendars for our severe weather outlook, and we labeled the 31st of May into the 1st of June for a potential risk for severe weather. And we made this a few months ago. And now the long-range models are trying to drag up instability and bring a threat for severe weather on the 31st and 1st for North Dakota. And it's like, it still kind of mind boggles your mind that, wow, I just predicted this. And of course, it hasn't happened yet, so we'll see what happens. But the models are suggesting that this is going to happen. And I said that might be a situation from 90 days ago.
I know, and exactly that's what I was going to transition to anyway for your listeners and viewers who are watching this. That period of May 30th to June 15th, when I sent that to Justin a few weeks ago, he's like, Gary, why such a wide range? That's like anybody could, not, he didn't say this, but anybody could say over the first 15 days of June, there's going to be some severe weather, possibly even in North Dakota. But I lay it out like this. I said that this is due to return. I said this segment of the cycling pattern that has produced most of our worst severe weather outbreaks this season is coming in during that time frame. But there are two distinct waves that will be coming through. And one in that first week of June, like you said, May 31st, June 1st, June 2nd, maybe as late as June 6th. I have it May 30th to June 10th, centered on June 6th. And the second wave is due around June 10th to 11th. And I include your area and just south and east of Fargo as this significant severe weather risk. It's an 85% probability, and it's the one that produced the major outbreaks in March 13th and 14th when there were over 40 tornadoes, and April 26th, 27th, and 28th when there were 170 tornadoes. This will be threatening your area towards the first 2 weeks of June there. And that means increased chance of heavy precipitation as well, 2, 3, 4, 5 inches of rain before summer settles in. The good news is the jet stream is weakening and it will shift north. The jet stream is caused by temperature contrast. So if everyone wonders, why does summer happen? Well, the temperature contrast gets weaker and weaker and weaker, and the jet stream shifts farther and farther north by June 15th or 20th, and that usually shuts down tornado season. Oh, there can be severe thunderstorms during the summer, but tornado season usually ends as the jet stream just gets past a certain point where the winds aloft are weaker. But just know the first half of June is going to be a stormy period. Then as you look at the rest of June, July, and August, the same pattern we are in now will cycle right on through September before it changes again in October. And those of you who've been following the LRC, you know that magical moment's going to happen in October, November. We'll talk about it on the Jay Thomas Show coming up early December next fall, early winter. But just know that the same pattern is going to continue, but with a weaker jet stream. What does it mean? Just now, the weakening jet stream from winter into spring has caused what I call these little spinny by storm systems to produce widespread rain. And all of a sudden the fields got wet in western Minnesota. And I'm sure a lot of you know that. And so you almost need it to dry out. So as we go into the summer, what will that summer version be? It won't be exactly the same as the spring, which wasn't exactly the same as the winter. The pattern is the same, okay? But the results will likely be somewhat different. So still an increased probability of it being near to above average on precipitation in July and August. And the potential, though, is for it to be drying out a little bit, because that's what happens during the summer.
But the good thing is we're not going to be dealing with drought conditions this spring or summer. So that's good news for our ag community. And temperatures are going to be at or a little bit above normal. So we'll be able to enjoy some summer warmth up here before the cold of winter sets in next year. And we've been telling people already that next winter, we had such a cakewalk winter this winter, Gary, that next winter, there's just no way that it is going to be a repeat of what we had this last winter. No way. Right. No way at all.
And La Nina, this last one was El Nino. El Nino is it was an El Nino influenced winter. And El Nino is the warming of the tropical Pacific Ocean. The exact opposite is developing. And La Nina is developing, and that means the waters are cooling significantly, and we're going to go through a transition by the summer. And that's why most of the weather experts out there for hurricane season are predicting a wild hurricane season because of that. Just know the LRC is also the best early indicator of what's going to happen for hurricane season as well. But what does La Nina mean for next winter? An increased chance that it'll be colder than average, not warmer than average for North Dakota. And so, but it doesn't mean for sure you're going to have a lot of snow. We'll just have to analyze that.
See how October and November pan out.
Yeah.
And we got a caller here. If anyone else wants to sneak in quick, I got 3 open lines, 701-293 at 9000. We'll bring Mike into the show from Pelican Rapids. How's it going, Mike? You got a question for Gary or us?
Yes, I do. This is Mike the Skeptic. Anyway, I'm just kind of wondering, Gary, I think it's kind of really interesting, but, you know, if you put out so many predictions and you're only 70% right, that, you know, a broken clock is right twice a day. And it's just like, I just don't go for it. I mean, just like, it's always, you're so vague. I mean, you have like a 1 to 3 day window on things and like a 300-mile radius. And you kind of say that's right on the mark. It's not on the mark. I mean, it's kind of around the area, but you can't predict. I couldn't really use your forecast to do anything. It was a farmer saying, 300 miles is a long way, and 2-3 days is eternity. So that's why I'm kind of a skeptic. I just that way, and if you could make me not, that'd be fine. Thanks for your time.
Yep, appreciate the phone call, Mike.
Thanks, Mike.
Mike, thank you so much for that call. And Dean and Justin and I have been, trying to answer this question. It's a very good question. We can get very specific. It increases the chance of us being wrong. And we're not just trying to cover our you-know-whats, okay? But let me just tell you, when we predict an area, like, for example, I'm expecting June 9th and 10th to be a significant severe weather outbreak. June 9th and 10th in that area.
So, Mike, put that on your calendar.
I brought in the outlook to June 7th to 15th because sometimes the pattern does get keyed on a different part of it. Tornadoes have been, if you get a significant storm early in the season and there's a tornado, we have been able to predict that the county where that tornado happens has an increased probability of another tornado happening that next spring. So if there's a tornado in the fall, and like there was one in Sharon Springs, Kansas, in October a couple years ago, and that's a town that's text wide, and that year was a 64 day cycle 2 years ago. We projected that part of the pattern was going to produce a severe weather outbreak and potentially produce another tornado near Sharon Springs, Kansas. And they had another tornado in Sharon Springs, Kansas. That's not going to happen. If I gave you 100 forecasts for tornadoes, maybe we'll only be able to predict 2 or 3. But if you can predict 2 or 3 tornadoes 100 days beforehand and down to the city, that still gives you some warning. But Mike, pay attention for the next couple of years. We do try to get as specific as possible. Just know that the Storm Prediction Center, when they put out their broad outlook, it's a broad outlook.
I was just going to say the same thing. The Storm Prediction Center puts out a broad outlook, but it just gives you a good heads up on where it's going to occur.
And one last thing, Mike, I said there's a very good probability of a hurricane forming 10th, 12th, 15th, 18th of August in that range. Around the northeast Gulf of Mexico. That does not happen every single year there. So you know, just test us on that one and then many, many others as we go along. And we'll be accurate more often than not.
Right. And our calendar on our website, that's my interpretation of it, not necessarily yours as well. As we focus here on Fargo, you're focusing more across the country. We got another caller here. We're running low on time, so we'll see if we can lightning round this out. Brian, welcome to the show. What's going on today?
Hey, I was just wondering, this winter was really light on the snow, and I was figuring we were going to have 4 feet of snow. But in the last month, had we had this much precip, I think we would have been at 4 feet. So why is this not varying? Sorry, why is this so different right now than it was back in the winter? And I'll hang up and listen.
Appreciate the call, Brian.
That is such a great question, and there is an answer. Here's what happens for other spots. For example, in your area, to get thunderstorms, you're going to have the humidity. So a disturbance during the winter can go by, and it's not strong enough to produce a snowstorm for you. It goes by with a band of clouds and it's dry. The same disturbance or a similar disturbance that cycles back through right on schedule 45 days later, maybe 90 days later, like this 100-day forecast. Now you have moisture. The humidity is increased from the Gulf of Mexico. There's moisture available, so there's disturbance that was dry during the winter can be thunderstorms during the spring. Forecasting that is difficult, but that's how it's done. That's why, like in July, it's not going to snow. A storm that produced snow in January is not going to produce snow in July. You already know that.
Yeah, and
but it may produce thunderstorms.
I would add on to it as well, Gary. And with a strengthened jet stream in the winter, a lot of these storm systems have gone to our south through the central and southern plains and brought severe weather down there. And a seasonal effect on the LRC is when that jet stream begins to weaken, some of those storm systems begin to lift a bit further to the north as well. So while Nebraska and southern South Dakota may have been getting in on some snow throughout this winter, when that lifts another 150 miles further north with a weakening jet stream, now we're included in that precip zone for our region.
Yeah, and although we didn't have a lot of snow this winter, our precip on whole was pretty close to average. We had a lot more rain.
With the 3-inch rain in December.
Yeah, that kind of helped even things out. So
we got to hit a break here real
quick.
That
December one could have been a 3-foot snowstorm, but it was just too warm.
Right.
It was.
So Gary, we're running up on break here. I want to thank you for joining us. If anybody wants to get a hold of you, or let's say they want to purchase this new product that's coming out, the Global Predictor, refresh our memories and let our audience know, how can they go about that?
The Global Predictor, just go to weather2020.com, weather2020.com, click on products, click on Global Predictor, and you'll be asked to put in your information. And that's very inexpensive to get the Smart Farmer's Almanac, get something that's actually accurate.